Welcome to the Sherry Welsh Coaching Podcast. This is Phil Johnson, and I'm here today with leadership coach and author Sherry Welsh of sherrywelsh.com. Sherry coaches individuals privately, and she also works with groups within companies. And you can get a copy of her book, which is titled Slowing Down: Unexpected Ways to Thrive as a Female Leader, from any of the major book retailers. Sherry, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Phil. Great to be here.
In our last two podcasts, we talked about purposeful listening, or intuitive listening, as we called it. In the first one, we talked a lot about listening techniques, or kind of tips for being a good listener. But in the second one, we got into that topic in a lot more depth. And we saw how being a purposeful listener involves who you're being rather than just doing some techniques. That means when you come to a conversation, it's not just do you put your cell phone on silent? Are you making sure you're not multitasking? But it's, are you open? Are you curious? Are you coming to the conversation without bias? And this is something that I think a coach can really help with, not just teaching techniques, but helping you shift who you're being as you're doing what you're doing. And I think that's why the topics, now more than 30 of them that we talk about in these podcasts, are so interconnected, because they're not just about things to do, they're about what kind of person you are. So we'd like to talk more about this today. And Sherry, maybe you can get into that a bit more for us.
Sure. You know, what I'm finding more and more, Phil, with the clients that I'm working with is the sense of overwhelm and overcommitment that's taking place. And it's all the doing that's happening, all the activities, all the things individuals and teams believe they should be doing. So a lot of activity is heaped on activity upon activity, and individuals and organizations are getting overwhelmed with how much there is to do. So I hear that expression quite a bit. And what I'm coming to learn for myself, even in who I'm becoming as I've stepped into this world of coaching, and I continue to invest in my own coaching and continue to evolve and expand into what else is possible for me to do in this time I'm here. It's really coming up, who am I being as I'm doing what I'm doing? So as I look at the 7 levels of energy leadership, I think about, who am I being in this activity? Who am I being in this conversation? That's an area that I thought would be interesting for us to talk a little bit about today, and see how it applies to those listeners that are out there. I have several clients that have come to me recently that are feeling overwhelmed, they're feeling frustrated, they want to change their jobs, they want to change companies, they want to do different things. And so we're spending some time in our coaching sessions to really slow it down, to say, okay, so what's going on here? Is it really that you want to do something else, or is it that you want to be different than who you're being in what you're doing currently? So that's what had me bring this to the conversation today. Is I thought that would be something that might be useful.
Yeah. So now you and I were talking before we started recording, and I want to bring up to revisit an illustration that you gave when we did our podcasts on the trust model, the 3 elements that you've found in a lot of your coaching that build trust: communication and integrity and transparency. And there was a great illustration of integrity that you gave. And I think you can help us in revisiting that to kind of illustrate this dichotomy between doing and being that we're talking about today.
Sure. A colleague of mine and a good friend had invited me to join her and several other coaches in a seminar that she was conducting, and asked that we participate and be the coaches in the sessions that were part of the experience. And I had done it the year before, and I said, absolutely, I'd be happy to. And then a couple months goes by, and many things changed in between when I said I would do it and when the actual event was occurring. And so I had made a decision to move from Michigan to Charleston. I had several things happening with my son in his high school experience that was happening at the time. And many clients and work that was coming up that was taking more of my time and attention. And seeing myself as going out to do this seminar would have been another task I would have had to do. I felt like obligated to do since I had said yes.
Yeah.
So if we think about integrity, which is, from my simple definition, doing what you say you're going to do, I thought about, okay, well, I'll still do it because, I don't want to disappoint her. I don't want her to not like me anymore or include me in any of her future events. So I'll just do it. Like with that kind of attitude, I'll just do it. And then I got some coaching on it myself from my coach, because I was, bringing it in as a point of frustration, like, I have all this happening and I'm just not going to have time to go. It's all the way out in Colorado. And my coach said, well, what do you want to do? Does it sound fun for you to go out there and do it? Or would you rather put your time and attention on these other activities? I said, no, it doesn't sound fun anymore at all. It did when I first said yes.
Right.
That's why I said yes. But things had changed. Life happens that way. Different priorities start to develop, and then things shift around. So what I did was decided to practice my own understanding of communication and transparency with asking for what I wanted here and being open and honest about it. So I sent her a note and I said, hey, I just want to let you know I've overcommitted myself. I thought I would be able to do your event. It turns out all these things have come up in between. I'm now going to have to say, no, thank you. I won't be able to support this event of yours. I'm letting you have enough warning that you can find somebody else even better than I would be at this event. And what I found was, when I was open and honest about it and who I was being, was really a true partner to her in saying, you know what, this is good for both of us. That I say now I won't be able to do it, and be honest about that, and let you find somebody else who can be even better. And that's what ended up happening. She was grateful that I communicated and was honest about it. And also she was able to find someone right away that was excited about it and ended up going and doing a great job along with the other coaches that were there. So what I've come to learn is that when I'm being, really honest about the higher levels of energy, coming with that mindset of, what, this is good for both of us. If I communicate and say no now after I said I would do it. It's what happens in life. Things come in and things go out. Priorities shift and change. The key is, instead of taking that resentful energy that I was feeling overwhelmed, I was feeling trapped, I was feeling obligated, which are all level 1, level 2 emotions based on my thinking, that I didn't have any other option, that it would end our friendship and relationship if I said, backed out of it. Instead of coming with that energy to it, I shifted into a more productive space to say, all right, what do I really want here? I want to be open and honest. Who do I want to be? I want to be a true partner with her. And what does that take? What does that mean? What do? I communicate openly and honestly. That's how it plays out in the trust model. So that the integrity of doing what you say you're going to do doesn't mean you do it against all odds, against all desire, because you have to or because you should.
Yeah.
It means you do what you say you're going to do, and who you are as you're doing it is what really resonates with the person, what really brings the most effective outcome for both or for all.
Yeah. So if you had decided, well, to stay in integrity, I need to do what I said I was going to do, you would have gone with an energy at that event that wouldn't have been that positive. But I just want to point out, by doing what you did and being transparent and communicating about your, what had changed in your circumstances and saying, hey, I can't come anymore, you still stayed in integrity.
Yeah.
You just did it with a completely different energy.
Yeah, and I would even adjust that word, I can't come anymore. I was choosing not to go anymore because the I can't is still a victim stance. So to me, I was moving into a higher level of integrity to myself, first and foremost. When I fall into a sense of obligation or duty, I've fallen out of my own integrity to myself.
Yeah.
Because now I'm acting out of fear that I'm going to lose this person. They're not going to like me. I'm going to ruin whatever it is that's happening. So I chose to communicate openly and honestly and say no, even though I had previously said yes. And that is being in integrity first to myself, and then I could be in partner spirit with her.
Yeah.
And for the group and for the participants that were paying money to be there to have a great experience.
Yeah.
So I really served powerfully by coming back to say, you know what, I know I said I would do it, and now I'm going to let you know I'm no longer going to do it. And let me tell you why, and I'm excited for you to find someone even better. And it's not like I had to go find someone for her. She was perfectly capable to find someone even better. I just simply communicated openly and honestly that I'm no longer going to attend. And it was liberating for me, because then I could give my time and attention to all of those activities, moving and being there for my son, being there for my clients and the business that had developed since I had first said yes to her, and really fully engaging in that without this lingering obligation event hanging out there that I was dreading. Not because of her, but it was just, it had turned into something I was dreading.
Yeah. I appreciate your adjusting my wording. That's why you're the coach. But
yeah, it's okay. I'm listening for it constantly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. A little instant illustration there of what a coach can do for you when we indicate a certain perspective by the words we're using. But that reminded me now, pretty obviously in this illustration, we're talking about the trust model with transparency, communication, and integrity. We're clearly talking about the energy levels. You know, we're seeing how all of these things that we've been talking about on the podcast and that you use in your coaching sessions are interconnected. But when you said, no, not I can't, but I choose, that reminded me of, you know, what we've talked about slowing down and taking ownership of the choices you're making, seeing the options
right.
that you have. It's also intertwined in all of this. So I'm wondering, Sherry, if you can give us another illustration, you know, with one of your clients of this kind of doing versus being.
Yeah, actually, I had one recently where I have a client who's a leader in a company, and she recently took on additional role and responsibility, which is almost fundamentally doubled her role, and her responsibility level expanded tremendously. And so with that, in our society comes an exorbitant amount of emails. So emails have become an overwhelming tool for communication, and it a lot of times has replaced a simple conversation. So she came to our coaching session, a bit exasperated and a bit down on herself, that she feels like she's failing in this new role. She really wants to do a good job. She has a large number of people depending on her. She feels like she can't handle the volume of emails, and that she's not responsive enough, and she's letting things fall through the cracks and. So all of this is activity after activity. And so as we talk through in the coaching session, a little bit slowed down, a little bit more reflecting on what's truly happening here. Like, what does she want to be different? And who does she want to be as the leader of this team in this role? And so as we looked at how she wants to be the inspiring leader, she wants to be available for her team when they need her. She wants to handle different challenges that occur on a daily basis throughout the day from other people in the company, the suppliers outside the company. She has many different interfaces going on. So when we talked about who she wants to be someone who's accessible. She wants to be responsive. She wants to be leading this team into really meeting the metrics and the requirements of the job, of the company objectives. What she saw was, she didn't want another tool or technique. And she even said to me, I'm not going to read that book again that you gave me, Time Warrior, and I'm like, that's fine. Yeah. You don't have to read it. So reading another book isn't going to fix the problem. Mm-hmm. It actually adds more to it. It's another to-do item.
Right.
So as we talked about who she wants to be and all of those characteristics and traits, what she found was, okay, the system currently isn't working to have me be who I want to be. All these things I want to do, I want to answer more responsibly. I want to be able to get through all my emails every day. I said, well, what has you want to do that? And she said, well, because that's what all my peers can do. And they expect me to be available for them. They expect me to be responsive. And they've even made comments that, well, I sent that to you. I sent you that. I sent you that. Don't you ever read your emails? So what she was seeing was she had all these expectations. Number one, of herself, that she should be able to respond to hundreds of emails every day, mm-hmm. while being receptive and inspiring and engaged with her team on an ongoing basis. That, by the way, is spread out around the world. It's not like 4 people sitting around each other. Yeah. They're spread out all over the place. So what she found was, well, there's other options. Well, what else do you want? If someone really wants your attention, what else can they do if sending an email isn't getting it? Mm-hmm. And she came up with, well, I can talk to him, create an agreement around how to get my attention. Call me, text me, IM me, come see me if you're in the same location. You can create different agreements with different people depending on what the issue is. But so many people are using email for different purposes. Some are just using it to inform. Some are using it to CYA. Some are using it to ask for something. But they ended up copying you instead of sending it to you, so you don't really pay attention to it. There's a lot of different dynamics going on with email communication that creates poor communication mm-hmm. As the outcome. So it was really interesting to talk to her about who she wants to be and her getting more excited about being that versus the doing of handling hundreds of emails a day, which was just not interesting and exhausting. And so that took her into her level 1 victim energy. Mm-hmm. And it had her believe that, there's nothing she can do. She's overwhelmed. There's too many to handle. It's impossible. And so from that place of victim energy, she couldn't see any other option to ask for what she wanted. Mm-hmm. She couldn't be in that trust model environment of, you know what? I want to be open and honest here. There's no way I can handle hundreds of emails every day from all of you guys. It's not working.
Right.
And it's not going to work.
And she was going based on expectations rather than a clear co-created agreement.
Exactly. That's the key when we're working together, coaching and in a time together. We're really it's creating an environment for the individual, the client, to slow it down, to really let their head settle and get out of that understanding that they got to do more. Because there is no more time to do more. It doesn't make sense to do more. If there was more for you to do, you would have been doing it. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's just how it works. So it's a matter of, okay, who do I want to be while I'm doing what I'm doing? I want to be a relaxed, open-minded, engaged person who can effectively sort through and respond to what makes sense to respond to. And if there's something that falls through the cracks, I got to let the person know, hey, I apologize. Let's come up with a different system. Because mm-hmm. that's probably going to happen again, given the volume of emails I get every day.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with her. And that was the other thing, to see that there's nothing wrong with you. It's simply the system isn't set up to support who you want to be. Yeah. So now you got to get creative and come up with alternatives that work better so that you have the space, the whole level 6 space, to allow that receptiveness to be available. That requires space. If you're jammed up and you're sorting through hundreds of emails, out of fear that you're going to miss one, there's no space. You're now down in level 1, level 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
And if it's not working for her, it's not working for her team either.
Right. Exactly. Or anyone in the company. Inside and outside the company. And then the other thing we talked about, and so I'm glad you mentioned that, is, she's a mom of 4 kids, and she has a husband who works full time, who has an amazing career as well. And so she's exhausted when she gets home. Mm-hmm. And she wants, these kids want to spend quality time with her when she's home. They're young, and she's exhausted because she's been down in her level 1, level 2 throughout the day. So once she saw it, she's like, okay, yeah, it would be great for me to get a different system in place, because I really want to enjoy and be a great mom and enjoy that time and be connecting and loving with my family.
Yeah.
As well as the best I can be for the team and the company that I've chosen to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, I think this episode is kind of a neat window into the coaching process, seeing how you can, the different things that we've talked about, the trust model, the 7 levels of energy leadership, creating clear agreements with people rather than operating based on expectations, slowing down and taking ownership of your choices, all these different things. You might talk about one technique or another in different situations, but really the coaching process is, like you were saying, helping people consider, who do you want to be in the situation you're in? Who do you want to be as you're doing the things that you need to do?
Right.
Well, thank you, Sherry. Appreciate the conversation today.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. It was fun.
And hope you also have enjoyed today's conversation. Be sure to subscribe to the Sherry Welsh Coaching Podcast. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and other podcast directories. For Sherry Welsh today, this is Phil Johnson. Thanks again for listening.